get to these minutes from the previous meeting. I had no additional corrections. Anybody else?
No. No. I'll make a motion to do.
Second.
John?
Yes.
Mike? Yes.
Yes. Okay. The guest slot is wide open, and we have guests. So, Mr. Tim Taylor is here to talk about KFS and issue 30.
All right. If I may, I'll give you just a little one-page handout that I will not go through this verbatim, but it has some information. And with your pleasure, I'll share copies with the folks here. So, I believe that's enough. Okay. My name is Tim Taylor. I'm a volunteer on behalf of the Children's Services Levy in the county. It's on the ballot in November. It's issue 30. So about a year ago, I was with Job and Family Services, but I got retired, and so now I'm here as a volunteer. It's a strange feeling, but one I'm happy to do. Children's Services is the agency responsible in the county to respond to concerns for abuse and neglect for children. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365-day responsibility. I have a staff of about 35 that carry that out. And they do respond to concerns. They work with families and attempt to resolve issues if there are, in fact, issues. I've received information. They receive a lot of calls, but in screening the calls, they will go out on between 400 and 500 referrals a year. Some of those are in with that initial visit, but they do have a responsibility under guidelines to make that visit. Working with the families, they attempt to resolve risk if there is risk to a child. In one of the reasons for the levy, which is a $500,000 levy for 5 years, it's an additional levy, which, an additional tax is not something that we like to have to ask for, but the circumstances are such that we do. When we investigate a case and find out that perhaps it's very, very serious, or it is very serious, in some of those cases the children have to be removed from the home. And when that happens, they're in the care and custody of the Children's Services Agency. Through up till about 2011, for the previous couple of decades, the number of children in the custody of Children's Services have averaged in the mid-20s. It might spike up a little bit, fall down, but if you looked at the previous 15 to 20 years, that's about where that number was. In 2012, and since 2012, that number has climbed to the point now where they're actually in the mid-60s for the number of children in custody of the agency. So it's about 2.5 times the number of children that they're responsible for. When I say they're responsible for those children, in some cases, those children might be placed with a relative, and the cost of providing for those children might be very minimal. Also, if we have a foster home and the appropriate, if they can't be placed with a relative and they're placed in a foster home, that cost is reasonable. $30 a day, something to that extent. But we do run into situations where children have some severe issues. They have to be placed out of the home. Sometimes they're placed in a treatment facility. The treatment can be very expensive, and in those cases, it can run into several $1,000s a month for the cost and care of those children. And so, what has happened with the increase in the number of kids in custody, the cost has grown significantly for Children's Services, and they're going to run out of money. That's just the direction that they're headed. So the biggest increase in cost has been the kids in placement that they have, the kids that they're responsible for. And unfortunately, it's not the sole driver, but one of the biggest drivers for this increase is the opiate problem that is hitting our county and other counties throughout the state and country. Again, it's not the only cause, but it's probably the biggest cause. That's where we've seen the biggest increase. And so that's the reason for the levy. It is, if you were to look at your tax bill, you'd see that the Children's Services through time has always been one of the smallest levies, smallest taxes on your county tax duplicate. And I think they've taken a conservative approach. They have a lot of responsibility. It's a tough area to work in. They don't relish the idea of having to ask for an increase, but they really don't have a choice. So that's why I'm here, to encourage your support, all of your support for issue 30 and an additional levy for children's services of $500,000. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
What's the duration of the levy?
I believe it's 5 years.
5 years. What's the current 7 mil? How long is that on for?
The 7 mil levy is through 2016, I believe. The 7/10
So that's
point
yeah,
7.
yeah. So it's like a 5 year too.
Yes, it was a 5 year. You know, there was a discussion about doing something with that mill, that levy. Now, I know you're probably familiar with this, but the state changed the law in terms of what the state reimburses for local property tax issues. And so, starting with 2000, and I believe it was 2015, it might have been 14, any ongoing levy, any renewal levy, still has a 10% contribution towards the levy that the taxpayer does not pay, the local property owner does not pay. It's paid by the state. That goes back to when the state implemented a sales tax in the 70s and said that they would, part of the money coming from the sales tax would be used to contribute to offset local property taxes. They repealed that law for new taxes going forward. And so one of the things that Children's Services looked at was, if we try to replace or go with a brand new levy and let go of that 7/10 mil levy,
You lose the 10%.
that you lose that 10% contribution by the state. And so they are probably taking the harder route by asking for a new or additional levy, but felt really in the long run that was a better thing to keep that initial existing 7/10 mil.
Of course, that's only for a couple of years. When that gets renewed or comes up for renewal or whatever you do with it, you're going to lose that 10% anyway.
My understanding was, and you may be absolutely right, my understanding was as long as it's renewed, not replaced, as long as it's renewed, the state would continue to contribute that. But, you get into the fine line of some of those state budget bills, and I may be absolutely wrong. And I haven't been looking at it for a while. So you may be exactly right. But I think the premise that they operated from was that as long as it's a renewal, the state will continue to contribute. Now they can always change that.
Yes, they can.
Yes,
Any
sir.
questions?
Yes, Tim, I'm not sure if I understood all of what was being said, but my question is, what is the duration for the new half-mil levy?
I believe it's 5 years. 5 years.
5 years. And the second question, you mentioned that towards the end of your presentation that, did you say opium or?
The opiate, people refer to as the heroin or the opiate problem, is one of the driving forces. Children's Services tracks the reason that children come into custody. Quite frequently, it's not just one issue. So it's not, you really kind of have to look at those numbers and try to, be very careful how you use them. But the increase in the number of cases related to opiates Unfortunately, it's quite often by the parents, but the number of kids that have come in custody because of that as underlying or primary reason is gone up significantly over the last 4 or 5 years. If you compare it to what would have been there 5 or 6, 7 years ago, much smaller incidence of that in our agency.
Which leads me to this question: is the Geauga County Children's Services considering or planning on coming out against this current issue that we will be voting on here at the election?
I don't think there is any. I'm not aware of any conversation or discussion at the county level for someone to come out against it. Personally, I'm against it. I think you'd find most of the people at the agency that would say that, but whether they would be able to take an official stance on that, I don't.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
I'll hold here just for a second. If someone does have a question, we'll step outside. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, first, actually the third Monday of the month, our scheduled report is from the Volunteer Fire Department. Chief John Phillips is there.
I have two things. One is good news and one is bad news. Good news is Saturday's proclamation for Sammy Sells went really well. We had nice attendance, probably about 50 people there, I would guess, right, PJ?
Oh, I'm going to say all that. I'm going to say all that.
The room was packed.
Yes, it was.
And he was on Fox 8, and they ran him that night at 10 o'clock. They ran him the next day in the morning. He actually went down to their studios and did an interview with them. And they had him on at 5:30 this morning again. So I can't say enough about the kid. He's when you talk to him for a few minutes, you get the drift right away. He's down to earth, very level-headed, and he didn't give 2 seconds thought to risking his own life to go out and attempt to save another. And it was very obvious in the tape that we listened to in 911 playback that he knew what he was doing and he was going to take care of it. So he certainly deserved the recognition, and I think Saturday's proclamation went really well for him. So thanks to everybody who attended.
I'd like to commend Mike Carterman. He did an excellent job.
Yeah, they played the 911 call start to finish. The cousin, I think, did a great job with that, with the dispatcher. I mean, nobody's nervous. It's like these guys knew exactly what they were doing. They had a plan, and they pulled it off. And it was kind of neat to hear. There was quite a few, I'm sure, friends and neighbors of the cells there, and some Auburn people too. And it was nice to hear how professionally everything's done from start to finish on these calls. It was. I enjoyed that. And Mike did a great job presenting the whole thing too.
He did.
When they questioned him on it, and they're saying, "Well, how deep was the water? Did you stand up?" He says, "Well," he says, "with all the fish hooks and glass down there, he wasn't about to stand up, so he swam all the way out and swam all the way back." It was good thinking.
Yeah, it was good thinking. But that gentleman was in his car, and that water level was right up to his neck. And if he would have been passed out or something like that, the outcome would have been way worse. And certainly without Sammy's intervention, it could have been worse. So I believe Mr. Joyce did a proclamation down in Congress. What do they call that? Congressional minutes?
Read it into the record.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, I got a copy of it out in the trunk where I got it. So he deserves credit, and he did a great job, I think.
He was wearing his hat and shirt on the TV.
Yes, he was.
See how quick he put that on when you guys first handed it to him?
Yes. Very proud. But he deserves it. I think he's going to go far when he gets older, to be honest with you. I asked him when he's joining the fire department. He said, "I'm not sure, Chief." Okay. Bad news. We lost a brother, Dennis Whaley, on the 15th. Passed away. For those of you who don't know, Thursday on the 22nd from 2 to 4 and 6 to 8. They're going to have viewing up at the fairgrounds at the school building. And Friday will be the funeral at the main grandstand at the fairgrounds, October 23rd from 10 to 11. After that, the procession will depart for Bainbridge Township, where the ceremony will be at Westland Cemetery, and Bainbridge Fire will be having the reception afterwards at their station.
And once again, that funeral is Friday.
The 23rd,
Okay.
10 to 11 o'clock at the main grandstand.
Yeah.
And then after that, the procession is going to head to Bainbridge Westland Cemetery. I can't say enough for Dennis. I've known him quite a few years. He's always been here for our community. As long as I can remember, he's helped us with the July 4th parade, as well as other functions. The man was impeccable as far as community service goes. So I'm saddened that we lost him, but hopefully he's resting peacefully now after having to deal with stage 4 cancer.
And you put up quite a fight against it too.
He was at the fair. So that's it for my report.
Well, thank you, Chief. Okay, we will move into our scheduled reports, trustee reports. Mr. Everly.
That's a tough act to follow there, John. Well, we've about wrapped up most of our projects here. We're moving into the next phase of prepping all the trucks for a little snow fun. So we do have one little project that we have down here at the bottom, which I'd like to tend to, which is a couple more slab replacements. And that's the ongoing repair of that concrete road we have up there that is been probably about 5 years in the making right now. Continual repairs. This is getting closer towards the end, so but we got a couple of panels here, and there's a quote here that we have from Phil Miller, who's done the concrete work. And if we did just the one pad, he wants $10,560, but it's basically a mobilization, demobilization savings. If we did the other, we do them all for $14,445. I'd recommend that's quite a discount we would be getting. So
It makes sense for a job that small to not have to have it mobilized twice.
Right.
Well, this is something we budget for. It's kind of become an annual thing there too. So the more we do, the more we do. So I'm going to make a motion that we contract with Phil Miller Construction for panels on both Shadow Wood and Whisper Wood at $14,445.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
BJ?
Yes.
We had a little meeting up on Stafford Road this morning, Emmerich did, with county engineers, and they have signs are all moved aside. The road's 99% ready to go. It's actually open for traffic. We have one little issue or two on some drive aprons we're getting done, and then there's a little project where we're going to do some drainage, and we actually got a work agreement with the resident to go and take some of this water further away from the road up there in the famous area where the water just runs around in a circle all the time. So we're hoping to get this water to move, and then eventually it ends up way up north up there at Whisper Wood, and eventually works its way up to get through that big culvert we have the issue with up there. So in that case, I think the project went pretty well.
It did, and I really kind of have to thank the residents for some patience too. They handled all this well. Lost some time there with the weather early on, right before we got started, and but I think start to finish, that absolutely the best you could hope for there. Good contract.
Yeah, and I think the project's going to show that it's going to make a big difference, especially when you're trying to do this winter plowing and so forth. You can have access. You don't have everybody squeezing down trying to make the corner, and hopefully we'll see more of that truck traffic funnel in off of Munn and not try to go across Stafford. I want to say, though, that Emmerich probably had well over 150 meetings with people, going over issues, explaining the project, and I think we need to take a minute if you run into him, but he's a big reason. The engineer's office said every time they did a project like that, they had a guy from the township carrying all the weight that Emmerich did, make it a whole lot easier. Projects go a whole lot easier. So I really, besides doing all the other normal jobs, he had to meet with all those people, and then also meet every week with the engineers and stuff.
Keeping everybody informed so they know exactly what's going on, and then his ability to field questions and really any concerns they might have. Yeah, that's probably the biggest help we could possibly have.
So, one of the most positive things I heard from the residents is the fact you guys took time to go talk to them about the trees. I mean, none of them are really happy about losing trees, and I wouldn't be either, but at the same token, you took time to meet with them, explain to them, and they appreciated that. And that was one of the bigger things I heard from a lot of them down there. That was kudos to both you and Emily.
Well, thank you. We did. It seemed like a daunting task at the beginning, but we just kept meeting, and it was interesting. Some of the people who suffered the biggest burden in loss of trees, I have to say they were just the most cooperative, and looking to had one resident who did lose the most number of trees and said whatever's the best for the township. I'm interested in whatever's best for the township, and I have to say that was very refreshing.
I did talk to a couple of Wing Road residents yesterday that had full respect for the road closed sign. Been doing the detour route the whole way.
Yeah.
And finally they had enough. They thought, this road's about done, so they took a look up there at the intersection, and they were quite pleased with the sight lines that are so vastly improved now at Wing and Stafford, particularly going west.
The one issue we had, which was Jock Thompson, who's right at the end of Wing Road, and we've addressed this with the engineers and everything. We have 4 new high-vis signs on Wing, and that's what we're going to have up there. Now, it's not a question of not seeing those signs unless you're impaired. So,
the engineer's office didn't go with the guardrail. Huh?
No. Well, it becomes the whole issue of putting up signs. It's a science to it, and to be honest with you, I'm just a student in that still. But we're following their recommendations on that. So I think that's necessary. We had a couple of little hoses broke. You saw some. Of course, the one guy didn't have all the fittings for both hoses. They go to 2 different places. But anyway, equipment's in pretty good shape. It's where we are right now. And like I say, we're going to start. The frames are all mild steel still, so we need to paint those and treat them. We had has a requisition in here for some plow edges, and they've got some newfangled these is Superman steel strength and everything. We're actually decided just to go back to the carbide ones that we were using. It only takes us an hour and a half to change them if we have to, but we're not getting any more usage out of these ones that cost 4 times more. So we're just decided that with this round, we're getting about a year. And that's all we got out of these newfangled ones we tried, so in case anybody brings that up. And other than that, I think everybody in good shape.
Very good. Michael?
Okay. Just a couple things. Congratulate PJ on his endorsement from the Chagrin Valley Times. That was a very nice write-up they did for you. And turnout we had yesterday, so it's coming up in a couple of weeks, and wish you the best of luck. Along those lines, candidates night will be at Kenston at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. So I'll be there just in the audience this time, but
Oh, I thought you were going to be speaking.
Now, somebody is in favor of the renewal, correct? The road levy?
yeah, most of us.
I mean, there's a spot
I don't know if
there.
we're allowed to vote now, but
They hold a spot for somebody to say, please vote for our road levy, so.
I guess I drew that straw.
Yeah, well, actually we drew that straw for you.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
All right, thank you.
All right, that was all I had.
What you got, Fred?
I have your regular reports in front of you, your revenue status, fund status, and appropriation status reports, and payments, warrants number 2641 through 2666, totaling $29,307.04. That's all that I have.
Okay, Jim's here. We're going to get to you in just a second here, Jim, for the contract. We do have that contract available tonight. Yep. Okay, we just discussed how Stafford Road's done and open, so the Board of Commissioners, I just want to point out for residents here, have initiated a resolution to improve Auburn Road from the county line to this street right here. So that'll be under construction. They got some right-of-way to purchase down there and everything, so this, too, will be a big project. Be forewarned, I would assume next year. We got quite a few letters and correspondence here. One was from a kid, I'm sure that was a government class thing, and she has, John, did you see that? She has tremendous concerns, did you? Yeah. Thank you. Traffic at Bainbridge and East Washington. Lorien Speed. We did a study there one too long ago.
Yeah, I wrote a letter back to that gentleman, and I incorporated all of the pertinent records. Just a refresher on that. Lucky Bell Drive was actually at the time people were complaining. I believe it was 55 mile an hour speed limit.
I know it was 45 for a stretch.
And,
it was 55 right after they finished it.
Well, yeah. So they wanted it 25, and we had a lot of people who wanted to, be able to push strollers and play jacks in the road. And, you have to remember that this is a public highway, not a playground, right? So Bob Phillips was the engineer at the time. The board voted to do a speed study. When you do a speed study, and there hadn't been one done since we had connected. Lucky Bell always kind of went from Newberry south, Auburn north, but never was connected. They connected it, and now we had a thoroughfare. So we did, the board passed a resolution, we did a speed study. You have to remember in a speed study that you take the speed limit signs down. Speed limit is unposted. And that's generally for a quota season, so which it usually ends up being about 6 months. They monitor the traffic, they determine a safe speed. In the case of Lucky Bell, the speed limit came back that they wanted to post was 40. We had discussions, and I believe we were all here, weren't we?
Yeah.
And
I think it was within the last 6-8 years.
Yeah, we had the discussions, and we asked, look, we know the 25 that they're asking for is very slow for a road that goes from one township to the other and all that. Can we settle on 35, which was below the study amount? And the engineer said, yeah, we'll acquiesce. The one thing you have to remember, that speed limits are based on a lot of different factors. It isn't just what somebody asks it to be. So they agreed with that. And in order to protect the speed limit, so to speak, to not end up being knocked up to another higher amount later on, we had it journalized, which kind of cemented in stone. Now you have to go back if you want to do this again, and you have to petition the engineers based on number of accidents, that kind of things, and ask them to redo a speed study, which would again exacerbate the problem that they're having, is that
Back up to 55.
back up to 50. So anyway, the long story is that I would be very, and we informally have run this up the flagpole, but the engineers are not terribly in favor of doing that. There's been no accidents. The interesting thing that you have going on there, and when we did a complete resurfacing over there, now all our side streets are 25, perfectly fine. But if you were to go up there and you drive down there at 35, you're going to have some people who are real upset with you. And those are the people that live there.
Well, this fellow could ask for, I don't know, he's got some claims here, people losing control, going off the road. That's a case for the sheriff. I hope when that happens that the sheriff is notified, called. That's my assumption, but I wasn't going to say that. I travel that out very frequently, but I find it hard to believe people are doing regular 45.
We gave them all the information, we gave them the speed study, we gave them all the documentation, and the ball's kind of back in their court.
Okay. We've also had some residents stopping in. I don't know what's going on with this. I've got a suspicion, but increased possibly truck traffic on Auburn Road, particularly one company.
They're driving around.
Yeah, they could Auburn consider banning trucks? Thought we banned trucks, and no, we didn't ban trucks. And quite frankly, I wouldn't ban trucks on Auburn Road if I wanted to.
I couldn't, but
right. I'm wondering if this isn't somebody enforcing. Munn Road turns into a township road at the township line with Newberry, and I wonder if something isn't going on that gravel pit trucks are being
I
pushed
think a lot
over.
of these trucks are going around the bridge on 44.
Could be too.
Sometimes
That's narrow. That's crazy.
Sometimes that you can be backed up there for quite a while during the morning, during the rush hour and whatnot. So I think that's. I know exactly what you're talking about, and
that's
been driving around.
That started 1st of May.
That's exactly. That may be the longest going bridge depth replacement, but it seems like they're starting to get close to the end. But
I wouldn't think.
But yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Auburn Road is a county road, so
it's built to truck steps.
It's difficult for us to do something like that.
That's what it's for. All right. Construction manager contract.
That's me, huh?
That's you. You're on, Jim.
we voted at the last meeting.
Completed AIA C-132, form of agreement between owner and construction manager contract that I filled out. I sent a draft to the county prosecutor's office. She reviewed it and gave her approval. So this is the original, and it requires my signature in your presence, and one of you sign the other side in my presence. And then if Mr. Mayhew would see that a copy is made for me, you get to keep the original. And send me a copy down the road.
We can do that.
Does that sound acceptable? Yep. So I'm going to sign this.
And this is essentially...
It's 20-some pages long, so I don't know if you want to read all the rhetoric that's in
the
here.
whole thing, Mike? Or?
But it's been read and reviewed.
Bridie's a real good reader.
And this is the exact same contract we use with Jim.
With
to
fire
do the fire
station.
station.
Yeah.
Other than the price is different.
It's better.
Yeah.
For you.
It's right.
Okay, I'm going to sign this. Who's going to sign?
He's Mr. Chairman.
Okay. It's in here somewhere. I can't read upside down, but and I'm done.
Okay. You want a copy of this page?
I want the whole thing, but I'm not taking it tonight. I'm leaving it with Fred here. And you can get it to me at another time. My address, phone number, everything's in there.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Jim. We're going to schedule some time with you. I know your lady's out in the car there, too. So,
That's okay.
yeah.
No. I bring her just for
we do need
company.
Yeah, we do need to discuss. We're moving towards sorting out the architectural firm that's going to handle this too, and we've got one of the applicants that we interviewed calls on a almost every other day basis. Now we're down to at least an email every other day, but so we are looking to make a decision here in the near future.
Which will employ your
we're going to have some public discussion on that, Jim.
Expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I need to do is see who submitted,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty familiar with everyone in the area, and based on qualifications and experience, I could certainly make a recommendation.
Now that we're official here, we will get you all pertinent information from, I believe there were 3, 4? 3. Okay.
Look at that.
We will do that. We will do that.
So, okay.
Our best to Mrs. Dixon.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, anything further on that, engineer? I don't think so. That's we're going to have to.
I'll give him all my copies of stuff that I have.
Okay.
So you can,
Okay.
He swings by, so
Yeah.
I'm sure he can pick them up here or whatever works for him. Okay, we've got. I had that with me. We got the copy of the check for the grant money from Scrap Tire Collection. And about cleanup day. I think we were the original township to fill out that application, and we pursue that every year it's been available. And it does certainly help with cleanup day. That's $1,177.10 came back to the township.
Okay. And that just goes back into the...
Will we pay that bill out of R&D? Yeah. This time of year, November 1st, traditionally we send letters out to the people holding the open spots on Zoning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. And we've been doing that with KCE Board too, so those letters will be going out in the next couple of weeks. With alternates also, since those are one-year terms, we'll be getting those letters in the middle of the next month here. We'll be starting to think about some interview times. So keep up with Nancy, because we're going to have to set some 10-minute or 15-minute interviews up either prior to or following meetings, whatever works for our folks. And we also at this point will be advertising or putting some type of notice, Joni and Diane, in the papers for people that are interested parties to come forward, and we'd like to talk to them. Sure. Okay. And that's about it. Any public comment tonight? Go right ahead.
Yes. I'm curious about Marzane Materials. That was warrant number 2661 for 6,000 and some change. What was that for?
Road material. I don't know what project it was for specifically.
Have we ever seen that organization as recipient of payment here for past road work?
It's actually just for materials, so it wouldn't be for services.
Again, the name is very unfamiliar. Bids were offered earlier in the season.
Yeah, I'm not sure if.
And I don't recall that name.
I'm not sure if
all.
we used them previously or made payments to them previously or not.
Wasn't participation limited to those who responded to the bid request earlier this spring?
No, because this was for materials, actually. It wasn't for the services. And
Well,
I think it was for the...
I think she's talking about is materials for gravel prices and everything.
Right.
Also, right.
Those companies that would be...
We're not limited to those companies. That just gives us... We can use them. We have fixed prices for all of them, but we can go elsewhere also.
Is Marzane Materials then limited to... There's no limit then on the cost? In other words, the earlier participants submitted costs to you for their materials, but apparently this company...
Well, I don't
did not engage in
know
it?
what specifically what project it was used for. I'd have to go back and look and see what it was billed to and talk to Emmerich. So I don't even know that it was billed on a contract project like that. It could have been for... We did some work at Adam Hall. There was work done at the park. There was also the crack seal repair projects. I don't know that we were quoted on materials for that one. So
specify on the check.
Okay, I probably will be making a further inquiry about that warrant and the payment. And, I'll be interested in seeing the invoice.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? No one else? Okay. Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Second. I vote yes, Fred.
Oh, yes. John.
I'll vote yes.
Mike, you?
Absolutely.
There you go.